All right, everybody. Good to see you this afternoon. How are we doing? Chat in for me. Chat in. One word. How are we doing? How's your day? Doing great. Lisa Hitchcock. There we go. Okay, excellent. All right, so today we're talking about converting internet leads in 4 steps, and it's going to be quick. We only have a little less than an hour. Um, Yeah, aside from getting them to answer. So we have a little bit less than an hour, so I'm going to take you guys through this real quick. And then when we get down to the end, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we do a 12-week training boot camp. And essentially at the end, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the boot camp and then ask how many of you are interested in getting more info or having us reach out to you about the boot camp. Now, that's a legit question. If you don't want us to reach out to you about the boot camp, just say no. No hard feelings. We're all professional salespeople here. I'm going to drop this poll real quick, just for my own curiosity. Have you been on a training with us before? So do me a favor and answer that poll real quick. Have you been on a training with us before? I've got 47 people on live right now. Ooh, we're doing good. 48, 35, 36 of you have answered. 37. Keep going. We're almost there. Almost at 80% of you have answered. Keep going. Answer the poll. It should have popped up in front of you. There we go. Okay. I'm going to end the poll. We got a whole bunch of new people on here. 78% are new people, which is awesome. And I'm going to take that down. So, what I'm going to be talking about today is I'm the founder of Smart Sales Coaching, and we specialize in scripting and dialogue training for agents and ISAs. And our specialty is lead conversion in the real estate business. And I'm going to tell you where the information from today comes from. And I am not a huge bragger. I'm not that kind of guy, but I'm going to tell you where the information I'm teaching you from comes from today. It comes from my partners and I having built and scaled a team that we got to over 30 agents and doing over 650 transactions a year, which made us at the time the number 2 in our market. And we were there for a couple of years, and we were a top 5 KW mega team at the time. If you want to know what happened to that team and where it went, and you want some cautionary tales on what not to do, I can tell you that at another time. But within that team, I also built and optimized an inside sales department. And obviously, kind of screwed it up at first, wasted some money. But once I got it figured out and got it really dialed in, I was able to take people off the street or new people to real estate with no real estate experience and combine them with our training and our average mix of leads. And they were able to produce between 36 and 60 transactions in their first 12 months with our training and guidance and the way that we approach lead conversion. I personally, when I was in production, got to the point where I was able to take between 5 to 7 listings on average per month as a cold outbound FISBO expired for rent by owner circle prospecting agent. So I have done it myself, many countless hours of outbound cold prospecting. And now my company for the last 12 years has been training agents and ISAs across the US and Canada. And we train some of the biggest teams in the business right now, including clients of ours that are in the top 5% of the Real Trends list of 1,000 mega teams. So this is where this stuff actually comes from. And as I said, I'm not a huge bragger, but the reason I'm telling you is because really anybody can tell you how to talk to your leads. Anybody can pretend to tell you how to have sales conversations. And many trainers and gurus in our industry really talk from theory and have never done what they're teaching, haven't done it themselves. I've done it personally for many years, and my agents and ISAs, the ones that I led, the ones that I paid, have used our techniques and strategies and been very successful at it, as well as our students now are very successful at closing more business, booking more appointments, and getting more deals using our training, using our methodologies. So I'm going to tell you this. Here's what I want to know. If you did not hit your goals in 2024, or you didn't sell as many houses or make as much money as you thought you could or know you could, chat in me. Chat it in. Yep, that's a lot of you. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why you're not hitting your goals and why you might not hit your goals in 2025 either. If you aren't hitting your goals, I can really just condense this down to one concept for you. I like simplicity and I like boiling things down to their building blocks to really understand them. I currently follow Alex Hormozy a lot. And one of the great things that he does, if you don't know who he is, he's an amazing internet marketer. He puts out tons of free content on Zoom, on YouTube. I've read both of his books, $100 Million Leads, $100 Million Offers, a couple of times. And one of the things that I really love about him is he just boils things down to their basic concepts. It's nothing new. It's stuff that other people have taught, but he really boils it down for you. So if you're not hitting your goals, I can tell you there's one key thing that if you could fix this, it would fix everything else. And it's that you're not going on enough appointments every week. That's the one key linchpin. If you're not hitting your goals, I guarantee you aren't going on enough new appointments every week. And if you aren't going on enough new appointments every week, it's probably because you aren't making enough asks in the right way. You aren't asking for enough appointments in the right way in order to go on those appointments. And if you aren't making enough asks in the right way, it's probably for one of the following reasons. Now, we polled over 4,000 agents in our database and asked them what's holding you back from setting more weekly appointments. And then we took all those answers and ordered them by their answer to see what the highest number of or most common answers were. And these were the most common answers: that they had a lack of motivation, or they had a fear of rejection, or they didn't have enough leads, or their leads weren't good enough, or they didn't know who to contact, they didn't have enough time to work their leads. They don't know what to say, leads don't respond, they can't overcome objections, and they have trouble staying on track. So if you identify with one or more of these bullet points, chat in me for me. Yeah, pretty common, right? Very common. Now, if I was to boil these down into three main categories, all of these bullet points, they boil down into three categories. Those three are a lack of lead conversion skills, right? Sales skills, from basic skills to more advanced skills, but having the type of scripting, sales approach, and understanding around communication and sales conversations to support you. So, not having those, having a chaotic and unproductive schedule, and an inefficient lead conversion process. That's what all those bullet points condense down into, those three elements. And we help our students with all three of those elements. So today, what we're going to be talking about is lack of lead conversion skills. So when I said 4 steps, I'm going to break the skills down into our 4 basic building blocks. And if you can't execute these 4 basic building blocks, you need to get into our 12-week boot camp. If you have a chaotic and unproductive schedule, you need to get into our 12-week boot camp. If you have an inefficient lead conversion process, you need to get into our 12-week boot camp. So let me go on here. Today, I want to help you get more appointments because that is the key. And this is the thing that we focus on in my company, is helping you get more appointments. So, by the way, everybody, this is not a sales pitch. I'm going to give you real actionable stuff today. And then at the end, I'll tell you, or I'll just say who wants us to contact them about the 12-week boot camp. So today, when we're talking about the 4 basic scripting elements, they are introductions, objection handling, your objection handling process, closing for appointments, and value propositions. So I'm going to explain more about these. And I want to just give you an idea of where a lot of this comes from, or the experience that I have. And I was trying to figure out how many sales calls I've listened to over my 12 years. And at first I was going to be like, oh, I listened to 500 calls. I was just going to pick a number. And then I was like, that number sounds too round. Nobody's going to believe that. I was like, and 500 doesn't sound that impressive. Maybe I'll say 1,000. I'll say I've listened to 1,000 sales calls over my career. I was like, do I need to just make up a number? Can I try to figure out some kind of logical way to guesstimate how many calls I've listened to? I'm like, okay, well, let's do this. Let's start from the top. So I've been coaching and training sales for the last 12 years, right? And I know that I've at least reviewed 10 calls per month. And in fact, in a lot of cases, I've reviewed more than 10 calls a week, right? In fact, I have a YouTube podcast that I do, my co-host and I have been doing for the last 5 years called Cash Call. And we actually take recordings from salespeople, and I'm going to be recording one this afternoon, and we play the call and we give feedback on it. You can go check it out. We're on YouTube at Smart Sales Coaching. So I know that I've listened to more than 10 calls in a month, but let's just use that as a conservative number. So 10 calls per month times 12 months equals about 120 calls a year. And this is a crazy conservative estimate. If I've listened to 120 calls per year at minimum, and I've been doing it for 12 years, that would be 1,440 calls that I've reviewed. I honestly think the number is probably more like double or somewhere in between, but that's a lot of phone calls to listen to. And here's what I can tell you after listening to all of these different salespeople and their calls is that you all have patterns. Do I have permission to be blunt with you? Chat in yes for me if I have permission to be blunt with you. Do you know what I've discovered after listening to more than 1,440 sales calls? Is that you probably sound worse than you think you do. You think your sales conversations are better than they really are. You think that you're doing the things you should do, or you think that you're saying the things that your sales trainer or your sales manager told you to say, but you're actually not doing it. And I know that because when I listen to the calls with the actual salespeople, their usual reaction is, why did I say that? Or I don't know why I said that. Or why didn't I ask that? That's usually the common response. So the reason that I'm pointing that out to you is today I'm going to talk about some concepts or these 4 basic building blocks. And unless you've role played them with us, or unless you've actually listened to calls of yourself doing this, you're probably going to think that what I'm training you is kind of remedial, or that it's overly simplistic, or that you aren't making these errors. But I promise you, you are, because I've listened to the calls. Okay, so let's talk about why leads say no to you. And this is an important concept that I want you to understand. So let's say that it's a nice warm summer day, right? And you're waiting for something, or you're going to be picking up your dry cleaning, or you're waiting for your kid to be done doing whatever. So you've got some time to kill, but it's nice outside, right? And there's a beautiful car dealership right next to where you're waiting. And you figure you're just going to go walk around and look at some of these cars because you have nothing better to do. Now, you think to yourself, I'm not buying a car today. I don't have a need to buy a car today. I don't have a desire to buy a car today. I don't even have a budget to buy a car today, right? But I'm going to go walk around anyway. So you're walking around looking at the cars. Then you see this guy. This is Jeff. Jeff sells cars. Chat in for me. What is Jeff's purpose? What is Jeff's purpose? Tess, what is Jeff's purpose? No, Tess, I want you to answer the question. What is Jeff's purpose? To sell you a car. Wait, let me ask you this. How did I know that you were going to say to sell you a car? How did I know that? How did I know that you were going to say to sell you a car? Do you know how I know that? Because we're all consumers. Me, you, we're all consumers. And guess what? We all see salespeople as this one-dimensional entity. We all view salespeople as this one concept, right? That's how I know you were going to say that. The point is, Stephen wrote in to build a relationship. Stephen was thinking like a salesperson. Good job, Stephen. You were thinking like a salesperson. Everybody here who was thinking like a consumer said the same damn thing. That's how consumers view us. Do you understand that? That's how consumers view us. Guess who the only person is who ever forgets that you are a salesperson? Do you know who the only person who ever forgets you're a salesperson is? You. You're the only person who ever forgets you are a salesperson. Everybody else knows you're a salesperson and regards you as a salesperson. This is why your leads and your prospects say no to you, why they won't give you their story, why they won't meet with you, why they won't answer you, because they're regarding you as a salesperson. This is the first critical perspective shift that you have to get. Yes, we're salespeople. Yes, we have to sell things. Yes, we have to get people to talk to us and then oftentimes convince them of things. However, we can also always be aware that anything we do or say, any way that we show up before we even show up, gets put through the lens of they're a salesperson, right? Okay, this is important. Now let me ask you a question. Because we walked onto this car dealership, this lot, and Jeff approaches us and starts chatting with us, and at some point we say, hey, thanks, Jeff, but I'm not buying a car today. Let me ask you something. I want you to chat in the answer. Should Jeff feel bad about himself? Yes or no? Okay. If we say, no, Jeff, not today, Jeff, not buying a car with you, Jeff, should Jeff give up on selling cars? Yes or no? Should Jeff question his life decisions because we said we're not buying a car today? Yes or no? Should Jeff never approach the next person that walks onto the car lot or anyone ever again and ask them if they want to buy a car? Should he not ask anyone else if they want to buy a car because we said no? No. By the way, Janice Santoni, you need to return my phone call. No, we shouldn't, right? Then why are you? Why do you second guess it? Why do you quit? You would tell him to get back up, keep doing it, right? Ask the next person. It's a numbers game, the whole thing. But somehow we forget that, right, everybody? We forget that it's a numbers game. Okay, so the consumer always looks at us as a salesperson. That never ends. And we shouldn't give up and stop contacting people simply because one person said no, or multiple people said no, or multiple people didn't answer us. So we keep going. That's the point. Okay, now let's get into the basics. Why the basics? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. You want to go on more appointments? You aren't going on more appointments because either you're not taking the actions to have the conversations and making the asks, or you're doing it in the wrong way. You're getting into your conversation the wrong way, introductions. You're approaching objections in the wrong way. You're not able to articulate your value, why somebody should work with you, and you aren't able to clearly set up and ask for a logical appointment with somebody. So we're going to talk about these here, okay? The basics, introductions. Introductions are massively important. They set the tone for what you're going to do. As a very long time cold outbound prospecting person, I want to tell you, here's another story for you. I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but before I got into real estate, I was selling mortgages. Do you know how I went about selling mortgages? Because I didn't have any money to buy leads. I actually went onto the city's website and I looked up and found people who had a mortgage, a second mortgage that was between 10% and 13%. And then I went and reverse looked up who they were and their phone number and their address. And then I called them out of the blue, completely out of the blue, said who I was and said that I was wanting to see if I could get them a lower rate and save them money. And then I had to talk to them over the phone to get them to the point where they would give me their social security number and their date of birth so that I could do a credit pull and figure out whether I could refinance them or not. Have you ever had to call a complete stranger out of the blue and talk them into giving you their social security and their date of birth? That's hard to do, right? That is hard to do. So I'm going to tell you, I'm telling you from experience that your introduction, the way that you get into a conversation with somebody, totally sets the tone for whether they're going to talk to you, whether they're going to interact with you, and whether you can establish enough rapport and trust that you could get them to book an appointment with you or give you sensitive information or whatever it may be. The point is, I'm not teaching you to get people's social security numbers. What I'm trying to say is, this is how important even all the way down to just the introduction is. So let's talk about introductions. Now, I want you to write this down. Write this down. No one ever wants to talk to a salesperson except for two reasons. One, they have questions they need to get answered, or two, they want to take an action. okay? Generally speaking, those are the only reasons that anybody wants to talk to a salesperson. So when you call somebody out of the blue, they all want to know these three basic things. Who are you? Why are you calling me? What do you want? And you want to answer those three questions as quickly as you possibly can. Don't waste their time. Don't do that Jeremy Minor stuff where he pretends like he doesn't know why he's calling you or that he has the wrong person, because all you're doing is wasting their time. You're going to answer, who are you? Why are you calling? What do you want? Quickly. Now, here's some pro tips for you. In addition to that, you want to match their first word. If they say hello, you say hello. If they say hi, you say hi. If they say hey, you say hey. You're going to match their first word because it's cheap and it's easy and it doesn't matter, okay? You don't need to be creative or be individual with how you answer the phone for a prospect, right? Just do what the prospect does. Because they answered the phone like that, say the same thing back to them. It's not going to be weird. You guys have heard of that whole mirror and matching and building rapport thing? Well, just take it all the way down to the first word they say. They thought it was okay to answer the phone with a hello or a hey or a hi or a howdy or whatever the hell they say. So say it back to them because it's perfectly fine. It matches and it's not a mismatch. The other reason you're going to do it, what would you have to be doing? Chat it in for me. What would you have to be doing in order to match their first word? Chat it in. What? Listening. Thank you. You would have to be actively listening to match their first word. So if you have to be actively listening, it trains you to be focused on that next conversation, on that next person, right? It trains you to be actively focused on them so that you're not lost in just doing whatever routine it is that you have, right? Okay. Sorry, my wife took a call in the background. Did you guys hear that? Chat in whether you could hear that or not. I'm curious. It's the last time. It was bring your wife to work day. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. And moving on. We're going to use their name assumptively. Let's be honest. You can be honest here. How many of you, when you call your leads or prospects, you ask if it's them? Hi, Bob. Is this Bob? I'm looking for Bob. Bob? How many of you do that? Chat in me if you do that. Chat in me. Stephen, I used to. Let me ask you a question. In the year 2025, who calls your phone and doesn't know it's you? Chat it in. Who calls your phone and doesn't know it's you? Who calls your phone and doesn't know it's you? Salespeople, telemarketers, spam. That's who calls you and doesn't know it's you. So stop calling and asking if it's them. You know it's them. It's always them. It's always the right person, right? I like to joke. Telemarketers ask, debt collectors know. Debt collectors know it's you until you prove it's not you, right? So, are you a telemarketer or are you a debt collector? You're a debt collector. You know that it's them. Now listen, if it says Bob Smith and you think a man you think that's a man and sounds like a man has answered the phone, hi Bob, this is Dale, or hello Bob, this is Dale. Hey Bob, this is Dale. I know it's you, Bob, right? Now, if it says Mary Smith and the voice that answers I think is a man and not likely to be Mary, I'm just going to omit the name. Hi, this is Dale with whatever. Hello, this is Dale with whatever. It's still you. You're the right person, right? You registered on my site to do this. You requested this info from us. You asked for your home's evaluation. So just omit the name. Or if the name is a spelling that you don't feel comfortable pronouncing. Or again, if you don't have a clue what gender that name would be, then omit it. But just always know that you're talking to the right person. Here's the reason why. It's because maybe 10 to 20% of the time it's not going to be the right person, but that's okay. I would rather show up confidently and be the voice of authority for that 80% or 90% of the people where I've gotten it right versus catering to the 10 or 20% where it's wrong, but showing up weak and not having a air of authority about me, right? Because when you show up, you call that number. When that person doesn't recognize that phone number, answers it, doesn't recognize that voice, and that person asks if it's them, three strikes, man. That's definitely a salesperson. Now I'm trying to figure out how quickly I can get off this phone versus, hey, I don't recognize that number. I don't recognize this voice. Oh, but they know who I am and they sound confident about talking to me. Now I better figure out whether they're important or not. Do you guys get that point? Chat in yes or no. Yes. Okay, good. So the other thing you're going to do is you're going to ask them a direct question. We got the two buckets of people. This bucket over here, the one we all want, these are the people, the consumers who want something from us, right? They have a question, they have a need, they want to get answers, they want to take an action. We all love those people. We're always looking for them, but that's a very small percentage of the people we talk to. A much bigger percentage of the people that we talk to don't have a question for us. They don't want to talk to us. They don't have a need. They're not ready. They don't want to interact with a salesperson, right? So for this bucket over here, we need to drive the ship. For this bucket here that wants something, we can ask softball questions, right? Hey, how are you? How's your search going? Is there anything I can do for you? Are there any questions I can answer for you? That's customer service. You can be much softer for that side. For this side, where these people are not sitting around waiting for you or don't want something from you, you have to be more direct. Are you planning on buying in the next couple of months? Are you accepting offers on your home, right? You direct the way the conversation goes. That's what I mean by ask a direct question. Then another pro tip is for these people over here, the ones who usually give you some kind of not yet, or we're not sure, or we don't know objection. Just give it back to them, right? Hey, are you planning on buying in the next few months? Or are you just window shopping at this point? Hey, are you accepting offers on your home or have you completely taken it off the market? Yeah? Direct them with your question, give them the likely objection that they can give back to you. Why would we give them an objection to give back to us? Chat it in. Why would I give an objection for them to give back to me? Why would I give an objection for them to give back? If you're stumped and you're like, I have no idea, Dale, why the hell would you? All right. Stumped. Thank you. Okay. Here's why. What's one thing we hate about salespeople? What's one thing we all hate about salespeople? Is that they don't take no for an answer, right? They're pushy and don't take no for an answer. So if you're calling this batch of people who probably doesn't want something from you, who probably doesn't want to talk to you, and already knows that you're a salesperson, right? Then offering to them, hey, I'm willing to accept a no from you is essentially what you're doing. Would you like to take an action? Would you like to buy or sell something? Or I'm willing to accept a no from you, like this one. How about window shopping, right? It just sets you apart as an agent because they're already probably waiting to give you that no. You're just inviting them to get it out of the way so that they can get over that uncomfortableness. You know that it's uncomfortable when you get first engaged by a salesperson who you really want to say no to, and you're just trying to be polite and you're just waiting to give them that no, right? Aren't you just, you know that feeling. You've been there before, right? If you have, chat in yes. Yep. Okay, good. All right, so we played to their likely objection. Here's what it sounds like. I'm going to put all the pieces together. And actually, I'm going to go to, oh, I don't have it here. So here's what it would sound like. You call somebody up, ring, ring. They say hello. You say, hello, this is Dale Archdekin with Amazing Realty. It looks like you registered on our website to look at some homes for sale. I just wanted to see if you planned on buying in the next few months or if you're just window shopping at this point. How simple is that, everybody? Is that simple, yes or no? Could you do that 20 or 30 times a day? Yes, good. If you did that 30 times a day, would you have more appointments? Yes or no? Yes, you would. Okay, good. Now, We train on all sorts of introductions. I just gave you a basic introduction for a blind lead, right? Which is very simple. Old leads, property inquiries, inbound phone calls, sign calls, circle prospects, FISBO expires, they all have their own little nuances around introductions. But for the most part, you've got to answer those three questions. Who are you? Why are you calling? What do you want? And then there's some other best practices on how you get into a conversation. And then we have some more complicated or higher level introductions, especially ones around like property valuation requests, right? You know who they are, you know where they live. Magically, when you call them, suddenly they don't remember doing anything that, that all the steps they took to get that valuation. So we've got some really specific intros that will help open that conversation with you and keep them from shutting you down. Okay, so let me ask you this. I want you to rate yourself. How powerful, confident, and compelling are your introductions right now? Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, good. Let's talk about objections. Objections. This is a big one. Objection handling is one of those, and when we say handling, I hate the word handling, but it just means like, what do you do when somebody objects to you? When they say, no, not yet, not with you, not under these circumstances, what's your process? Do you have a process? Most of you probably don't have a process, or, what I've seen is that the processes that some salespeople follow, if you don't have any training, you just kind of roll over and die. You're like, okay, call me, right? When they object to you. Then when you get a little bit more experience, you're like, oh, great. You try to close them. You're like, well, let me send you some properties, or, hey, let me know if there's a house you see. I'd love to show it to you. Or I'd love to help you through the selling process. I can tell you how much your house is worth. Let me know when you're ready, right? You close them. That's a close. Then you get a little fancier in your objection handling, and they say, no, not yet, not with you, not in these circumstances. Then you argue. You're going to argue, or you're going to educate them, and then you close them, right? So when a prospect objects to you, I want you to understand these concepts. Let me ask you a question, actually. When we walked onto Jeff's car lot and we knew we weren't going to buy a car today, we knew we didn't have a budget to buy a car, we didn't even have a desire to buy a car. If we say, Jeff, I'm not buying a car today, don't we feel right and justified about that answer? Yeah? We're probably thinking, oh man, I hope Jeff doesn't try to change my mind. And we probably don't want to keep talking to Jeff about that buying a car concept, right? This is what the consumers are thinking. This is what your prospects are thinking. This is what those leads are thinking. So if they feel like they're right and justified about what they've said, if they don't want you to try to change their mind and they're hoping that it ends the conversation, these are the 5 elements of objection handling that you can choose, any one of them. And we need to know how to do all of them. But I want to point out something to you, is that I showed you that sort of inexperienced salespeople will just immediately close into the face of an objection. It's because they don't know how to do anything else. Or they'll try to persuade and close, right? Pitching. They'll try to pitch and close into the face of an objection. Then when people get a little fancier, like I said, they'll educate or dispute whatever it is that the prospect said. Then they'll try to pitch. Then they'll try to close. The mark of a really amazing salesperson, and the place that we start, is with discovery, asking pure questions first, because I want you, write this down. It is vastly easier to sell somebody something if they tell you what they want to buy and how they want to buy it. Would you agree that? Here's what I mean by that. If somebody says, no, not now, not with you, not under these circumstances, what they're doing is they're saying at a different time, with a different person, under different circumstances, right? Do you get that? So if I ask good, pure discovery questions, I literally can get the prospect to show me how they're making decisions and why they said what they said before I try to dispute or educate or pitch or close them. So we start with really great pure discovery questions, so that if somebody says, I'm not buying until next year, I can ask a great question into that to understand. If they say, I'm not ready to work with an agent yet, if they say, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent out of pocket, if they say, I want to work directly with a listing agent, I can deliver really great questions into the face of those objections and keep that conversation going instead of just trying to argue with them or make them wrong. Do you guys understand my point here? Yes or no? Okay, good. So I want to ask you a question. How smart, complete, and polished is your objection handling process? If I fired off, I'm not going to buy till next year. I'm not ready to work with an agent yet. I already have an agent I'm working with. I don't want to pay a buyer's agent. I just want to work with a listing agent. How confident do you feel that you could stay in that conversation, not make me wrong, not argue with me, but continue on the conversation to basically get me to describe to you how to sell me? Okay, got it. Good. Let's talk about appointments, everybody. The Holy Grail, this is what we need, right? We need more appointments. How do you ask for your appointments? Your appointments should be the logical conclusion to the conversation you just had. Write that down. Your appointment should be the logical conclusion to the conversation you just had. So I'm going to talk to you, usually what I hear when agents, salespeople ask for appointments, it's not the logical conclusion to the conversation they just had. And the other part about it is what a prospect wants to know when you ask them for an appointment. This is what happens in the back of their head, right? Hey, can we get together and talk about the buying process? Can I come take a look at your home and talk about getting it sold? What goes through their head is, does this match what I want or need? Does meeting with this salesperson for whatever I think it's going to be, does it match where I think I am now and what I think I need or not? What am I going to get out of this? Why am I going to meet with you, right? What's the result going to be or results? And how long is this going to take? Or let's say, how risky is this going to be? Because remember, we're all salespeople. And what do salespeople always try to do to you? Always try to talk you into something. Always try to convince you of something. Always try to pressure you, right? Everybody? Isn't that what they do? Yeah. Okay. If you're a deer, are you going to go hang out with the wolves? Yes or no? Hell no, you're not, right? Okay. Well, the consumer is a deer and we are the wolves, okay? So you better make it really clear to that deer that they are not on the menu. Do you get my point? Okay. So when you're asking for those appointments, it has to match what they want or need. You have to be clear about what they get out of it and how long it's going to take. When you also have to reduce the risk, right? Reduce the time it's going to take, reduce the threat, and make it stupid to say no. So the point is, when you're asking for the appointment, you need to figure out where the prospect is currently in their mind, where they think they are, and you have to change the context of what your appointment means. And you want to make it customized for them, okay? So if you have a first-time buyer, they haven't seen anything, their lease is ending in the next 30 days. Maybe that close might sound like, oh, hey, all of that makes sense. Listen, most of the first-time home buyers that I work with find it really helpful to get together for 10 or 15 minutes, go through the full process, ask all the questions that they have, and so that at the end of it, we can craft a game plan for you to find the perfect first home for you and your family, make a plan for getting through all the decisions and the inspections that are going to come along with buying that home. And also, because you've got this extra 30 days before your lease ends, now is a perfect time to set this game plan up for you guys. I'm available on Wednesday or Thursday at this time for 10 or 15 minutes. Which of those would work better for you? So I'm taking their elements and I'm baking it into a custom close for them. Hey, everything you've told me, this makes perfect sense. And here's how it makes perfect sense for you and your unique situation. All too often what I hear is salespeople using generic closes. Hey, great, let's come to my office. We'll talk about the process and then go look at some houses. That is not customized at all, right? That is pretty much cookie cutter off the shelf. Let's just do the same thing we do for everybody else. So You need to customize your asks to where they're at in the process and what their unique scenario is. Okay. And if what I want to give you here is when we're talking about this, formatting is way off. When closing for appointments, here's a way to gauge this. You know, there's kind of levels of difficulty to asking for appointments. I think you remember me telling you that I used to prospect FSBOs and expireds pretty hardcore, right? They're down there in the disagreeable category where they do not want to meet with me. They don't want to meet with you. They don't want to talk to you. And they're the disagreeable ones. And then up from there, obviously we have like referral business. Yeah. Or they past clients. They want to meet with you. Hey, let's get together and talk about selling that house. Or yeah, we're ready to make a move. We'd love to get together and talk about the process or the next steps. That's requested. So I just gave these some units. If all you can close are the ones who ask you for an appointment, you're probably going to sell somewhere between 0 and 12 houses a year. Then the next one down from there is agreeable. They sound like they're open to meeting, but they haven't, you know, specifically asked for a meeting, but they sound open to it, right? Probably 12 to 24 units a year you could sell if you can close those two categories. If you can then improve your skill set to get to the neutrals, I think you know what I'm talking about. Those people that don't have any clear need or desire or question about the next steps or the process or anything like that, if you can get them to meet with you before they're ready, then you can get to the 36 to 48 category. If you can convert disagreeables, the ones who don't want to meet with you, don't want to talk to agents, that will get you into the 60 plus homes category per year. So this is a clear delineation of what impact your level of skill set has on how many homes you can sell. Okay. So how logical, skilled, and attractive are your appointment booking skills? Rate yourself. Let's see it in the chat. Let's talk about value propositions real quick. This is a fun one. I want you to think about it this way. If I said, why should I buy a home with you? Or why should I list my home with you? Your value proposition would be your answer back to me. Your value proposition needs to be able to answer, why should I choose you? Why should I trust you? What will I get out of it? And your value proposition, we obviously use one in the seller presentation, right? Hey, this is my team, or this is me, this is what I do, this is my track record, here's what I'm going to do for you, here's the results I'm going to get for you, this is why you should work with me. Similar to buyer presentation, right? This is who I am or who my team is. This is what we do. This is our track record, our results. This is why you should work with us. What you do is obviously your value proposition is in both of those presentations. But what we teach our students to have is what we call an elevator pitch. You see it there at the top. It's just a generic statement that you could make to a buyer. Hey, random buyer, this is why you should buy with me. Hey, random seller, this is why you should sell with me. And having that elevator pitch is almost like having a business card. It gives you a massive amount of confidence, and you can use it not only in its generic form, but then when you are closing somebody for an appointment or to work with you or to consider you, you use it as a customized close for them. So I'm pretty confident that if I brought some of you up here and said, why should I buy a home with you? Why should I list my home with you? One, most of you would probably be terrified to answer that question. And two, you probably wouldn't answer the question very well. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how to do it. And then I'll talk to you guys about our 12-week boot camp and how you can get more info. So to do an elevator pitch, very simple, right? Your basic generic one. You take 2 or 3 of these buyer results for a buyer, and you take 2 or 3 of these seller results for a seller. And then you hang them on this framework. We, or my team, with our knowledge, experience, or process, give you result, result, result. And what you end up with is something that, I don't have an example here, but let me just see if I could spitball one, right? So let's say that I'm going to do a buyer one. I'm going to save you money and give you a likelihood of success and avoid issues, right? Hey, great. Thanks for asking why you should buy a house with me. Well, I've been selling homes for the last 20 years. And in fact, I'm on the number 2 team in our market here. And so what that means for you is that at this point, we've worked with so many buyers. We've developed a 24-step process that we use that ensures that you find the perfect home, get it at the best price and terms possible without losing it to all of the other buyers that are out there competing for the same homes right now. That's why you should work with me. So I just demonstrated for you. One, I have the experience of doing this. Two, we had lots of practice. Two, I have a framework to do it on. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, and I just did that sort of freestyle. But the point is, I've done a ton of practice doing this, and I have a framework to hang it on or a structure to follow. So let me ask you, if I asked you, why should I buy a home with you? Why should I list my home with you? How confident are you to answer that question on a scale of 1 to 10? Chat it in for me. Woo! I got some big numbers. Got some tough people in the crowd. Look at that. I like it. Okay. So I want to ask you a question. Can you learn how to dance by reading slides? Yes or no? Can you learn how to dance by reading slides? Here's what I'm going to tell you. You also can't learn sales scripting. You can't learn to sound amazing. You can't learn how to think on your feet by reading slides. But what you can do, and this is where I'm going to tell you about the 12-week boot camp, everybody, is what you can do is you can come to our 12-week boot camp where we have a complete lead to appointment script training. So I just took you through 4 basic concepts, right? There's a lot more that goes into this. We have a lot more training around just those simple 4, but if we could get you to master those simple 4, you're going to immediately improve your results and book more appointments today. And you're going to out-script your competitors who are taking your appointments right now. So in our 12-week boot camp, we focus on complete lead to appointment script training and the best objection handling training that you can find anywhere in our industry. And what do I mean by best objection handling training? Is that we don't start with arguing with people or making them wrong. It is a much better way, a much more comfortable way to approach handling objections. When I got started in sales, I mean, I've been in sales for 30 years, but every time I've gone into a new industry or needed to improve what I was doing, I went and I paid for training. All the way back to buying tapes. Do you guys remember tapes? If you're not old enough to know what a tape is, go look it up. Tapes, CDs, then MP3s, then online videos. And anytime that I've gone through a training program, 99% of the time, they taught me how to argue or make the prospect wrong. It didn't feel good for the prospect, didn't feel good for me, but I did it anyway. We have a much better way of approaching this, one that is more collaborative and more customer service oriented, but still gets the work done. Also, you have weekly accountability in our 12-week appointment boot camp. How many of you, chat in me if this is you, how many of you lose track from week to week of what you should actually be doing to move the needle? There's a million things we could be doing, but really we kind of lose track of the 1 or 2 most important things that we have to do every single week in order to move the needle. So accountability, making sure that you show up, trainers following up with you if you don't show up, right? The other people in your little group reaching out to you to say, hey, where are you at? Are you coming to training or not? That's invaluable. I don't know about you, but when I was in heavy production, knowing that the other people were going to show up to the prospecting room or they were going to show up to our role play time made a difference. It actually made me show up more often. So all of that, every time that we can get you to show up is going to be better than you not showing up. And then we have an ultimate top producer schedule. Remember 3 of those things: skills, schedule, and your CRM process. Well, we have an ultimate top producer schedule that we help you reclaim your schedule and get control over it again. And we have a CRM process that you would follow. So I know this is a Sierra webinar that we're doing right now. It doesn't matter what system or technology you're using. I guarantee you that you probably either aren't using it to its full capacity or you're barely using the basic functions, and you probably don't have a really good process to, 1, make sure that you can identify the highest quality targets, 2, make sure that you get to them, and 3, do it in a quick fashion so that you're not spending an inordinate amount of time trying to lead generate every single day. We have a quote, never lose a lead process that we teach you for how to do the most impactful stuff right away. So if you are interested in doing the boot camp or getting more info from us, I'm going to drop this poll. Let me know if you'd like more info on it. 11 appointments a week, 52% show rate. I like it. Struggling one, average 25 a week. Okay. We can definitely talk about that, Stephen. Okay, so I just dropped this poll. Do you want us to reach out to you to discuss our 12-week boot camp? Listen, we're salespeople. We're not going to chase you around forever. If you want us to talk to you about it, great, say yes. If you don't want us to talk to you about it, just say no. Do everybody a favor, okay? Good. So the poll is up. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. Click on polls and quizzes. Looks like we got 43 people. 21 of you have answered so far. Keep going. I've got 23 answers out of 41 people. If you have not answered the poll as to whether you want us to reach out to you about the 12-week boot camp, I'm talking to you. So answer the poll. Let us know. There we go. We're at 27. We're getting close. How about this? If you answer the poll yes, we're going to reach out to you. If you don't answer the poll at all, we're going to reach out to you. So that'll take care of everybody. If you said no, thank you for your honesty. All right, everybody, chat in for me. What's one thing you got out of today's training? What is one thing you got out of today's training? Chat it in for me. Mirroring the salutation, like it. Sarah Wilkinson needs the 12-month training. Great, Sarah. We will definitely reach out to you. Greg Green, process. Yeah. Ask for the objection or give them the objection. They'll probably give back to you anyway. Keep grinding. Stay humble. I do not sound as great as I think I do. Good job. And by the way, when I say you don't sound as good as you think you do, I don't want it to be a negative pressure being like, oh, I suck. I'm not going to do this. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that in a lot of cases, we as salespeople kind of wing it, or we do what we've always done. And a lot of times we may not be aware of the things we're doing that are negatively impacting our results. We just think that our leads suck, but there are some techniques and strategies, or we're doing the wrong thing at the right time or the right thing at the wrong time, if that makes sense. Let's see. Yes. Excellent. Okay, everybody. Great seeing you. Thank you for all of your interaction today. I'll see you guys again. And I'll talk to those of you who are interested in the 12-week boot camp, and then you'll crush it, and we'll get those other people who weren't interested to come and join us. Good seeing you guys. Thank you.